Hi, this is Tatiana Moroz, and you're listening to Journalistic Revolution.
Hello, fellow lovers of liberty. I'm Matthew Dalton.
And I'm Robert Wasmund, and welcome back to the Journalistic Revolution. Today on the Journalistic Revolution, we have Derrick J. Freeman from Derrick J's Victimless Crime Spree. Here's a quick video of what he's done.
Hi, I'm Derrick J. I'm an activist originally from Philadelphia. To me, an activist's calling is to actively work to advance a cause. The cause for which I work is personal freedom. I believe my life is best when I engage in voluntary interactions and self-government. I reject the idea that anyone else has a higher claim to my life or my body than I do. I see people who call themselves the government as a threat to my personal freedom. I realize you may feel differently, but my relationship with the people who call themselves the government is completely involuntary. I don't want a politician to represent me. To me, government is the idea that one group of people can coerce everyone to comply with an edict, or face increasing punishments up to and including death. Despite perhaps the most noble of intentions, the best government services are a far cry from what could be provided for by voluntary interactions. Besides, the people who call themselves the government wage wars and put peaceful people in jail for crimes involving no victims. If Starbucks used some of its money to drop bombs, I wouldn't shop there. So why would I support the American empire? The empire does not require my consent.
He has been arrested for several victimless crimes, including but not limited to trespassing, contempt of court, possession, and video recording. Derrick J, say hi to the people.
Hey, it's good to be with you today. Thanks for having me on, Matt. And Robert, thank you.
I want to start off this with, what was your original intent with your victimless crime spree? I mean, was it intentional when you started it off, or after being arrested so many times for activism, you decided to document and put it together?
Yeah, so thanks for the question. My original intent, I get asked this a lot, and it may seem from the video that my intention was to go to Keene and get arrested and do this whole crime spree thing, but it really wasn't my intention to sit down and make a movie as soon as I moved there. Really, my goal was to move to Keene, to make relationships with other people who want to live a free life, and to attempt to live a free life myself. You know, in the process of attempting to live a free life in an unfree world, a person will find himself arrested many times. And that's exactly what happened on my victimless crime spree, which people can watch for free online at victimlesscrimespree.com.
All right, and we'll have a link for that right here. And then, well, just a side question, because you brought it up. So you're a big advocate for the Free State Project then?
Yeah, absolutely. It's the best chance that anyone has at liberty in their lifetime.
Now, I was actually at Paul Fest. I ran into a few of the Free State Project activists, and I asked one girl a specific question. Are there any other states where they're doing this? Are you guys helping to prop up other organizations in other states to move that movement forward?
No, I can only speak for myself, and I'm all in for New Hampshire. I haven't been to all the other liberty movement places that exist in the world. I know some notable ones include Free State Project West, which is in Wyoming, Lone Star Libertopia, which is in central Texas around the Austin area, and that's headed up, not headed up, but John Bush is a huge proponent of Lone Star Libertopia. And Asheville, North Carolina also has its own group of liberty lovers focused on peaceful parenting. And so all of these movements have attractive qualities about them, but the one that makes New Hampshire the best seller is that it's been in the game for over 10 years, and its successes are piling up. There's no question that Keene, New Hampshire is the liberty media capital of the world. So much media is produced out of there per second, it's no one can compete. And yeah, so that's why I put all of my eggs in one basket when I say that, New Hampshire is where people move to be free.
But there are other options for people who aren't close to New Hampshire. Like if you live in Texas, you would have the option of not having to move all the way to New Hampshire. But your opinion is that your best shot, your best chance, and the most experience is going to be coming out of New Hampshire?
You don't move for geography, you move for the community. And so while you may have some comforts in Austin, Texas, the community is simply not there. New Hampshire, with its 10-year head start, is already equipped with things like a private 911 emergency service and a private 411 blast text service that goes out to anyone in the state who needs to know what's happening with an arrest in Manchester, Grafton, Keene, any of these areas. There was a person 2 winters ago who rode down town to town fixing generators for people in the midst of a storm. These are the reasons why people move to New Hampshire. It's for the community, not for the weather, certainly.
All right. Well, let me ask you this. Would you like to see other people in the movement follow in your proverbial footsteps as far as, that type of activism that you were doing?
Yeah, I want to see the whole world stand up and disobey, because that's what I truly believe, that good people disobey bad laws. It's in our nature to say, no, I'm going to not follow your law, which comes from your words and your mouth and your pieces of paper. I'm going to follow my law that comes written on my heart, and that's how it's going to be, and I'll take the consequences. That's the kind of attitudes that I would like to see people adopting, and that's the kind of attitude that I think has been stripped away from people. I think that's sort of a natural, innate human function to be the master of your own life. And so through public education and television and pharmaceuticals and lots of other things, people have been bred out of that human nature to stand up for themselves. Anyway, yeah, that's what I would like to see. More people standing up for what's right.
I'm glad you brought that up. Down here in Florida, we have kind of our own little thing going on with Mark Schmitter. Are you familiar with Mark Schmitter?
Yeah, I am.
Yeah, and passing out jury nullification, kind of what you're talking about is those BS crimes that there's no victim involved, where the juror can make up its own mind whether that law should be followed or not.
Yeah, that's very encouraging. A lot of people don't know that the jury has so much power, but
Fege's cause is definitely an important one.
Absolutely. Yeah, juries have a lot of power. They can be the difference between freedom for a person and life in prison.
Yeah, and they can set precedents for nullification of laws on a larger level too, which is good.
Sure.
Coming from me, Derrick, I'm kind of jealous of the fact that you have this opportunity to put yourself in a position to be arrested so many times. I'm a single father, widowed, where I have kind of a higher responsibility where I can't afford to do things like that. What advice do you have for those people that can't afford to be arrested that would in other types of activism that you would give to those people?
Yeah, well, fortunately, you're doing it. What I would recommend to those types of people is produce media. It's the most important thing that a person can be doing, and it's one of the easiest things that a person can do, given that it's 2013 and everyone has the ability to produce media right from their cell phones. There are apps that allow you to edit video, and every cell phone has a video camera. There's no excuse for you and every person to not be producing media about the way to live free. And that's what I would encourage people who can't civilly disobey. That's what I recommend they do. Right now, I'm in that position where I am no longer able to disobey openly.
Yeah,
And
I was going to ask you about that. That you find yourself in a position that you could be sentenced to like many years for even a small infraction at this point. Could you explain to the people how that came to be? I mean, like what the setting for that was?
Yeah, sure. So if folks go and watch the movie at victimlesscrimespree.com, you'll see that in the end, I'm charged with 540 days, or sentenced rather, to 540 days in state prison. Um, I served 60 of those days, and the rest is suspended on the condition that I don't break any more laws in the country for the next 2 years. And it's been going well so far. We're over 6 months in, and you know, that was the amount of time it took to rack up 11 charges. So I think I'm doing pretty well, and I've got 1.5 more years to go, in which time I'll be returning to the Shire. But in this time, I am producing media because I can't be arrested, as you say, Robert. And if I am arrested for even something as simple as jaywalking, I could be sent back to New Hampshire State Prison for over 3 years.
And this is for stuff like trespassing and possession and recording in a building that was deemed non-recordable, apparently, and contempt of court, stuff like that. I mean, do you think any of those... I mean, it just seems ridiculous that you could end up doing years, over 3 years, for such victimless things. Well, let me ask you this to make it...
Sure.
To kind of make it a little more lighthearted. What was your favorite victimless crime that that you've committed? Which one was like the most satisfying at the end of it all?
Yeah. So Give Peace a Chance was by far the most satisfying of the activism that I got to participate in. It was... I'll set the scene for folks who haven't seen it. People in Keene make a celebratory act of smoking at 420 in the center of the town at Central Square, it's called. And I attended one of these rallies. I was actually about to be heading to work.
I remember that in the video.
Yeah, and so I was not expecting totally to be arrested, but then I was really surprised because I went to smoke there often, and there were never any problems. And this particular day, there was a huge police presence. And I was like, is everyone just going to be scared into not smoking like we normally do? Why should this change anything? Let's act normal, guys. Let's just do our thing. The presence of people in costumes shouldn't affect anything. And so I smoked, or attempted to smoke a marijuana pipe. I packed it in front of all the police, and I asked the officer who was sitting next to me, who happens to be the head of the drug task force, "Do you mind if I smoke?" He said I can do what I want, and I took that as permission to smoke in the company of someone who's next to me. It's only polite to ask if someone minds if you smoke, if you're going to be in their immediate vicinity. So that was a fun example of showing how peaceful a person can be, or how peaceful an action can be, compared to the arrest, which followed. Because, he says to one of his other officer ladies, "Take him." And she crosses her arms, folds her hands. She's not doing it. She won't arrest me. And so I'm singing to her. I sing "Give Peace a Chance" by John Lennon, and I'm thinking, great, I'm gonna make it. I'm just gonna walk right out of here. Doo-doo-doo. This is like 5 days after I had been pepper sprayed in the eyes by one of her coworkers, and it turns out some other police officer woman, she runs across the street and then she arrests me. So it was a really interesting thing. And so these two women are on the front cover of the DVD. You can see them here. And in their faces, I don't know if you're able to see their faces too well, but this one is the one who was told to arrest me, and she folded her arms. And then this one's the other one who came over and walked over to arrest me following that. But it was so fascinating because I had a discussion with the blonde-haired woman saying, we're strangers. Can we make the agreement that I won't put my hands on you and you won't put your hands on me? And she agreed. And then she kept her agreement, which was just thrilling to see that she wouldn't make the arrest, even though she was told to. I was very encouraged by that. I felt like we made a personal connection, and we might be making some headway if we can communicate with the police that what they're doing is immoral and get them to start resisting their orders.
Well, what you do actually sits with me on a personal level, because one thing I've always tried to push in whatever form of activism I was involved in was the ultimate responsibility of love. And personally, I think, I kind of agree with Dr. Martin Luther King. Hatred cannot drive out hatred. Only love can do that. And so I think that in all of our interactions, our voluntary interactions with other people, it should be based out of love for each other as human beings. And I see that with your activism. You're constantly begging people for peace, or trying to get them to agree to a peaceful interaction during your activism. And I have to commend you for that. That's just on a personal note.
I have a question. Did you go to court for that drug charge?
I took a plea deal. Unfortunately, I took a plea deal, a universal plea. It was really complicated. I ended up emailing 3 different prosecutors for 5 different trials, and getting all of the charges wrapped up into one plea, so that I wasn't, because I was sentenced to jail, right? And so I'm going to have to go to jail and then come out of jail 4 times to go to trials. There was no way that I was going to be prepared if I'm sitting in a jail cell. I was going to be prepared for 4 trials. So I really had to just plea out and wrap them all up, and then just go to jail, and then just...
You could almost say you were
solution.
forced into pleading, right? You could almost say by the sheer
Everybody is.
number of charges that they were giving you, you were pretty much forced into taking a plea?
Yeah, so, right, I made my own decision. I wasn't forced. No one had a gun to my head, literally, but figuratively, yeah, they sure do. They're saying, either 10 years in a cage or 1 year in a cage. It's either, do you want to be punched in the face, or, punched in the elbow, or, punched in the arm or something. It's like, I'll take a little bit less of the pain, please. But what's interesting is some people were not in my position. Some people who were arrested with me, like at the courthouse, Ian and Kelly Voluntarius, they were arrested for trespassing on the public courthouse. And I didn't even go inside the building. I was filming outside with my video camera. The 2 officers, or the sheriff's deputies, come outside of the building to come chase me down the street for filming outside of the courthouse. It was so absurd. And they weren't facing any other charges at the time, so they decided to take that to court. It was ruled yesterday unconstitutional, and so they are off the hook for those charges. Unfortunately, I pled guilty to mine, and so even though it was unconstitutional, I'm still guilty of something.
Well,
Yeah, ridiculous.
the reason why I'd asked was because it almost felt like, because of that cop, and you had it on camera, that he gave you permission to smoke, basically, is that you could have used that entrapment, maybe? The argument of entrapment.
Sure, it would have been so interesting if I could have taken each one of these to trial. I would have loved to see, because I had so much evidence, right? And it was all just so damning for them. It would have been really a beautiful thing to see each of these things taken to trial. That's what I hope to do, possibly years in the future, when I do more civil disobedience, that I can do it right, have all of the plans set, and then just let them take the wrong step, and then boom, all my plan goes into action, and that would be ideal.
Machiavellian civil disobedience.
Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this: were there any victimless crimes that you were committing that you were surprised that you weren't arrested for? Kind of like that example of the lady folding her arms. Were there any other instances where it didn't end up in arrest and you were actually surprised?
Oh, that's a really cool question. I don't know. So there was one where, and this didn't make it to the movie, but if you if you bought the DVD, you'll see it's in the package, on the disc. You can see it in the bonus features. But it's also on YouTube. If you just Google, I think it's like Derrick J, sheriff, outruns sheriff or something. I parked in a sheriff's spot, basically. Or in a judge's parking spot. And the sheriff's deputy, who I know by first name because he's always coming over to try and arrest me, Caleb, I'm like, oh, hey, Caleb, how's it going? He comes over and he's like, you got to move your car. You can't park here. And I was like, well, I'm not parked, which I wasn't. My car was running and it was not in park. So I was not parked, definitionally. And so I asked him, well, what's the definition of parking? And I've got it. I'm on camera. We've got 2 cameras in the car, and decides, look, okay, Derrick has just beat me in this definition game, and I don't want to use argumentation with him, and I don't know how to explain that I want him to move using words. So he just uses actions and opens up my car door just totally without permission. This is a huge violation of my property rights and of his authority. So it was absurd. And I drove away. So I get him to shut my door, and then he's got a sheriff's deputy in front of my car, one to the side and one to the other side, and you can see it all on the camera. I just floor it. He's telling me, get out of the car and you're under arrest. We're gonna tow your car, and I just kick it into gear and fly out of there. It's like, get me out of here. And I couldn't believe, they didn't show up at my house later or anything. It was like, I only lived 2 blocks down from the courthouse at the time. My car was only going 2 blocks down the street. They easily could have chased me on foot, but they didn't come after me. They just wanted me out of the parking spot. But I was shocked. And, he did say that I was under arrest and then changed his mind later. So that was one instance where I was lucky, I guess you could say. It was some good footage too. I hope you check it out later.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely gonna look at that.
Link, so you can put a link at the bottom.
Yeah, definitely.
No, we talked before. I will be sending you that $20 for that signed copy. Probably soon after March 27th when I get my next paycheck.
Cool. Yeah, I'm game. We've got extra copies here. I've got a whole box of them. So if people want Victimless Crime Spree, you can order at order.victimlesscrimespree.com. Or like Matt did, just hit me up. And if you want a signed copy, I can do that privately for you. And that's no problem, too. Happy to do it.
Awesome. So what's next for the Victimless Crime Mastermind?
Well, the most important thing is that I'm focusing on producing media, and as much of it as possible. I'm a total media hound. I love to search the news and report what's going on. So I've got a new podcast that airs daily. It's called Peace News Now, and it airs on LRN, the Liberty Radio Network. It's every 3 hours at the top of the hour, and it's also featured on YouTube at youtube.com/peacenewsnow. Every day, an engaging video giving you positive news stories. I don't know where else you can find such a thing, because everywhere I look, there are stories of tyranny and nightmare Orwellian states come true, and I'm sick of that kind of news. I honestly, I just want, give me a happy story about a private charity that's feeding hungry people. That's what I want to hear about, the ways that the world is getting better. And so that's what I report on. Hopefully that jives with people, and hopefully your listeners will be interested. It's at peacenewsnow.com. It's easy to subscribe both on YouTube and iTunes.
Awesome. We'll have links down at the bottom. All right, now 2 questions that are off subject of your activism particularly. The first one is, what do you think people can do to create more unity inside the liberty movement? Not conformity, but unity inside the liberty movement. And what do you think people can do that can bring more education to the masses?
The first question is, what can people do to produce more unity, not conformity, in the movement? And so it's a great question. Well, so my first impulse is to say that trying to gain an understanding of others' language is a huge help in gaining unity, not conformity. So people can have, and let me explain what I mean by that. So people will have divergent ideas. People might have ideas that are different from yours as an environmentalist, or even as a capitalist or socialist. And that's fine. That's great. Whatever. Have those discussions. But when I see a lack of unity happening, where there could be some, is where people are disingenuous with their language. and will use terms that are inflammatory rather than terms that like just help define what people mean with their meanings. So let me just like give an example. Some anarchist versus a statist have no conversation with each other because they see their worldviews as so separate that they couldn't see unity on any type of issue, but they might be able to come together on the issue of big corporations running the government and how they both see that as a problem. And if they're able to define their terms as corporations or monopolies given state privileges, well, then I think there could be a lot more unity where there didn't exist some before. And it's about language. It's about finding terms that others can relate to that don't cause emotional, um, like cognitive dissonance. So that's one way to bring more unity into the movement, so to speak. And then your second question was
Bring more education to the masses. What do you think the average person can do to bring more education to the masses?
so what a lot of people are already doing is great, is sharing media on social media. So they're sharing this video on YouTube and LiveLeak and Facebook and Twitter. And that's really good because that reaches more people. Um, but aside from just the simple like share things, I think that it would help if people would like it would honestly help education more if the packaging were a little bit better. So let's say you're providing something, not you personally, but people who provide media are handing out gold to the world. Just here is this valuable information. Here you go. You can have it for free. But the packaging really sucks, and so people get turned away. They're like, I don't know if I want this. This looks scary, or this looks kooky,
Or different.
yeah, or different. Sure. So I think focusing a little bit, like the content is great. Everyone, I think I can use a broad brush and say the people in this movement have really got great content. The liberty message is solid. Education should follow, as long as our packaging is attractive. And so I think that people could focus on that a little more. And what I mean by packaging is like how your attitude is when conveying information. I hate to just use Alex Jones as a bad example because I value a lot of the information he's brought to the public. But if I were to emulate Alex Jones, I think I would have turned off a lot of individuals because positivity can capture more flies. You catch more flies with honey than with vinegar. So that's my main message, is like, be more positive. Not you personally, but people who are producing media and want to share this information, people who want to educate. Be positive, be excited. People, that's contagious. So when you're excited about an idea, other people get excited about an idea, and that's the best way to spread this education.
Well, that's I like that point. I like that point a lot. Just one more question, or actually two parts to one more. One question, two parts. What is your opinion on Rand Paul's filibuster, and do you believe it was a form of education or a pointless cry for help?
Oh no, it was great. I am a big fan of the Rand Paul filibuster. I am totally apolitical. I don't have any skin in the political game. I don't expect any good to come out of politics. But I really enjoyed following the Rand Paul, 4 hours, 5 hours, 6 hours, 7 hours. I was climbing along with him and rooting along as I was refreshing my pages. I scanned in on the C-SPAN live stream for a little bit and watched him go back and forth with some other Republican senators. It was enjoyable and a good time. I don't think it was a pointless cry for help. Like, I think most politics is a pointless cry for help, but this in particular, I think, was more educational than anything for two good reasons. One, that it got a lot of people talking about the issue. It got people focused on, why is this man talking for so long? Well, so people researched, who is John Brennan, and why are these drones dropping bombs on people, and why does the president think he can have the authority to kill an individual without the judicial process? These are questions that many people have not been asking themselves for years or possibly ever. And it was great that a lot of people started asking those questions. And the other reason is because it started trending these things on social media. It wasn't just a one-time, like, now we're going to think about this. It was, it actually had an effect that's sending out ripples to the rest of the community, where drones and Constitution are two of the words that were trending in the US on Twitter yesterday. That, I don't know if that has ever happened or will ever happen again. And that has to be all Rand Paul. So yeah, kudos. I think it's great.
Awesome. Now, we're wrapping it up here. We don't really have any other questions for you. Now, is there any other movements or anything that, that you're trying to get started right now that you definitely want to see people, who want to be involved and want to be educated should get involved in, or any websites?
Yeah, so the most important things that I can plug as we wrap up is, first of all, that if you haven't heard of Bitcoin already, you really should do some research and get involved with the Bitcoin community. It's not too late. I think a lot of people feel like maybe they're like blocked out, or they missed the show or something. It's just getting started. So if you're new to Bitcoin, if you haven't heard of it yet, check out weusecoins.com. It's a non-commercial website that's purely educational, and I really recommend you do that. It's one of the most subversive or seditious things you can do to undermine the government is simply use an alternative currency. The other thing that people can check out, as I plugged earlier, my show Peace News Now. If you want to stay up to date about what's going on in the world of peaceful resistance, or if you want to support the work of Peace News Now, check out peacenewsnow.com. Another thing I want to mention is victimlesscrimespree.com is my movie. It's free online at victimlesscrimespree.com. I want to thank Ian Freeman for producing the film, Bo Davis for doing wonderful work as a video editor. None of it would have been possible without them or the good people of the Shire Society, shiresociety.com. Thank you, Michael W. Dean, for helping produce the DVD. And that's all that I think that people should hear about and getting involved with. I just want to thank you so much for having me on the show, Robert and Matt, and I hope everyone has a great rest of the day.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And that was Derrick J. Freeman with Derrick J's Victimless Crime Spree. Journalistic revolution. News you need to be involved in.